I would particularly like to address false and disturbing claims which have been raised about my agency and my staff in relation to an horrific accident that resulted in the deaths of 2 young Irishmen at a construction site in Perth on 25 November 2015. As I have always maintained, any accident and any death at any Australian workplace is tragic. It is therefore entirely appropriate that when such dreadful instances occur, they are fully and properly investigated and prosecuted by the appropriate authorities. As I've said on previous occasions, the responsibility for monitoring workplace health and safety rests with the various state and territory safety bodies. When FWBC becomes aware of potential safety issues, we then refer them appropriately and promptly. In fact, in 2015-16, the agency made 48 referrals on matters relating to workplace health and safety.
Sorry, Mr. Hadgkiss, the door just went when you said it was 40. How many?
48, Senator. 48 referrals on matters relating to workplace health and safety.
Thanks.
Now, the site where this tragedy took place was a Jackson, I spell for the record Jaxon, construction site in Perth. Specifically, it was the Bennett Street Lodge project. Now, in a response to a question on notice numbered SQ 000175, I outlined that during the course of 2015, FWBC investigators made a total of 15, that's 15, visits across a total of 9 Jackson sites, one of which was the Bennett Street Lodge project. I also provided as an attachment to that answer copies of file notes made by FWBC investigators arising from the visits to these various sites. Now, it was following the tabling of these documents that statements were made and recorded in Hansard which sought to falsely attribute to my staff accounts made by others and thereby imply that my agency and my staff was somehow responsible for contributing to injuries and deaths on work sites. Now, this is a baseless and hurtful allegation to be made about the dedicated public servants working at FWBC. I also categorically reject the unjustified and uninformed claims that FWBC stops union officials from carrying out safety work on building sites. They are utterly false. In respect of the Jackson tragedy, let me set the record straight. At no point was FWBC investigating the CFMEU in relation to its conduct on any Jackson building sites, whether in respect of right of entry or otherwise. I will repeat that statement for clarity. At no stage did my agency or my staff launch any type of inquiry into the conduct of the CFMEU or its representatives on any Jackson construction site. Furthermore, at no point did FWBC receive any complaints or any concerns from the CFMEU alleging that its representatives were being prevented from exercising their lawful rights in accessing these sites. Had they done so, the agency would have investigated. In October 2015, FWBC became aware that the CFMEU had filed civil claims against the company for hindering union officials from accessing sites. We later learned that these claims had been filed back in August. The litigation was later subject to a confidential settlement between the CFMEU and the construction company, that's Jackson. Now, as many of those in this room will know, Section 73 of the Fair Work Building Industry Act 2012 prevents my agency from enforcing the law after a matter has been settled by the parties concerned. What this means in the Jackson case is that not only is this tragedy being used by some to unfairly and falsely suggest that my staff have somehow contributed to this horrific accident, but the reality is that my staff are now restricted in our ability to investigate and act on the CFMU's claims that Jackson unlawfully prevented the union from accessing Jackson sites. To be clear, I raise this issue not to enter the debate over matters of legislative policy, but rather to clarify the record and respond to the hurtful and unjustified political attacks against my staff. My staff and I take the role of ensuring compliance with workplace laws and workplace safety very seriously. There is absolutely no truth to the unfair claims that FWBC stops workers or unions from raising safety concerns or from carrying out safety compliance on building sites. Thank you, Chair.